This is bringing maybe a sharpness to the way that we're communicating with others. Maybe we're being more aggressive. We're putting ourselves out there more aggressively. Really be mindful of the conflicts that are occurring, the verbal conflicts that are occurring between April 15th to May 10th. Those verbal conflicts are giving you conscious awareness to where your fears are, your insecurities. It's helping you become consciously aware of your fears and insecurities. These conflicts, these arguments, these verbal spats. You're in the fight for your mind. You're in the fight for your mind. Welcome to the Weekly Transit, your guide to understanding the current planetary and astral alignments. Together, we'll explore how to harness these cosmic frequencies, empowering you to reach your highest potential as you navigate the days ahead. I'm your host, Scott Tajarian. Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of April 14th through the 20th. April 14th to the 20th. That's the week. And the theme this week is authentic, courageously joyous values. As we cover 9 transits, another full week, just like the last few weeks have been very full. This week we're covering 9 transits, which is highlighted by Mercury's transit into Aries, Mars transit into Leo, and the Sun's transit into Taurus. So we've got 3 planets moving into new signs, though Mercury was just recently in Aries. It retrograded out of Aries and now it's moving back into Aries, where it will transit through the entire sign of Aries, where its initial stay in Aries most recently was just the first 9 degrees. We'll be getting all of that in detail as we look ahead into the week. But before we get into the week, just a couple announcements. I said this last week that I was going to be releasing my interview with Alexi Turner. Some very Mercury retrograde things happened to me over the week that just kind of threw my week off and my schedule, my Taurus rising schedule. I wasn't able to adjust in a timely manner, and rather than putting like crazy pressure on myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hold off on Alexi's interview. We're going to save that until, I think that's going to come out now on April 29th. So April 29th, we're going to be talking to Alexi, which is a really fun, great interview. She gives such great insight into what's happening as an American in the Middle East. She's spent extensive time in Dubai and is now living in Saudi Arabia, and just so interesting to hear her story. She's a Sagittarius moon, so she really embodies that adventurer, that traveling spirit of faith, and is really strongly connected to religion. And we'll get into that in that episode. I'm excited to share with you. This week, we're going to be interviewing Amber Herzog-Lyman. If you have been listening to this podcast over the last 2 years, you've been hearing the music of Amber Herzog-Lyman. And if you listen to this episode to the very end, you hear me mention her name every single week. Amber is a poet and somebody, she's a writer, a brilliant writer, and film producer, and she is one of the creators behind the music on this show. Has a very strong connection to the ocean. Wow, what a wealth of knowledge. 2 weeks ago we had Krista Shu on, and Krista is involved in coral reef restoration. Amber, she is deeply connected to the whales and dolphins and has spent a lot of time swimming in the ocean with whales and dolphins. And so she is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the ocean, and not only the physical connection to what it means to be in the ocean, to be physically connected to these ancient sentient beings, whales and dolphins, but to also, she's also an expert, I would say, in understanding the esoteric connection between the whales, the dolphins, Earth, and us. So that is a fascinating interview. And Amber's actually a really good friend of mine. She's of all the people I've interviewed, I've known Amber the longest because we've known each other since we were kids and have stayed connected all these years. And she is a great friend and support of the podcast, obviously, because I'm playing her music here every single week. If you hear the intro, the outro, that's Amber. That is her music. She is one of the creators of this music. And so, yes, we get to talk a lot about music and the ocean and whales and dolphins and all the spiritual, esoteric meanings behind everything. We get into a deep conversation. Amber's she's a Pisces, so we get deep. So let's dive in to that conversation this week. I hope you enjoy it. Also this week, we've got Delisa Hawking. I've been invited back on with Delisa Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be on Delisa's show where we're going to be talking astrology and everything that's going on in the world, all the craziness that's happening in the world, reflecting from an astrological perspective. And it's always so much fun to talk to Delisa. And so I hope you are able to join us on Tuesday live on YouTube, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's Tuesday, April 15th on YouTube, Delisa's channel. And if you miss it, you can check the replay. I hope you enjoy our conversation there. Before we get into the week, I wanted to touch on some celebrities in astrology, and I do this because it's to help you reflect upon yourself. And hopefully some of what I'm sharing is going to give you some insight and knowledge about yourself, or simply an understanding the language of astrology through the reality of the individuals that I'm going to be sharing with you here. I was super obsessed, like many, with the most recent season of White Lotus. So I was equally blown away and disturbed, I guess, to some degree, with the final episode, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And I could go on and on talking about this show and why I loved it and why it's brilliant. But I really want to just focus in on two people that are involved with the show. Number one, Mike White, who is the creator, the writer, the director. He wrote and directed every single episode of The White Lotus, including all of season 3, which was the most recent season that came out. I'm going to talk about his astrological code, and then also talk about one of the stars of the amazing ensemble cast, Patrick Schwarzenegger, who is the son of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver. He comes from, some serious Hollywood American royalty. His great uncle is John F. Kennedy. So it's really fascinating to look at his astrological code and understand the familial connection. Like, you really, one of the most interesting parts of being a guide who uses the language of astrology to help people navigate their way through life is looking at the astrological codes of the different clients that reach out to me and their families. You see the reflection between the families, and it really starts to make sense. You see not only how the families are reflecting each other, but it's almost like you see how they're passing down energetic traits through the language of astrology. And so what's interesting about Mike White is how he connects to Patrick Schwarzenegger. Like, I really wonder, it's like, and Mike White, one of the characters in White Lotus, this character named Chelsea, who I talked about last week and maybe the week before. I talked about this character Chelsea in reference to Venus transiting through Pisces, and how Venus transiting through Pisces really brings up that inner world of how we connect with others empathetically, compassionately, deeply, and how we may be giving more than we should because we feel so deeply how other people are suffering that we're in relationship to, and so we're willing to sacrifice ourselves in order to bring peace to the person that we're in relationship with. And in sacrificing ourselves, we end up maybe harming ourselves in the process. And you can see that quite clearly with this character Chelsea in season 3 of White Lotus, because she is sacrificing herself for her boyfriend, her lover, who she views as her soulmate. This is the character who brings up astrology on multiple occasions throughout the show. Most recently in the final episode, she's telling her boyfriend, it's just kind of like an aside conversation, doesn't have a lot to do with the plot necessarily, but she's talking to her boyfriend about, I presume it's her girlfriend, who she makes this friend during her week stay in Thailand. And this friend of hers has a boyfriend, and I think she's alluding to these two, where she's like, and she's a Venus in Cancer, and he's an Aquarius moon, so they could never really work together, because her Venus in Cancer really requires much more depth and emotional connection than he's able to give, because his Aquarius moon is so detached. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, wow, this is great. I guess Mike White must be consulting with an astrologer, or maybe he just knows a lot about astrology. But he is definitely using this language through this character, because she's somebody who sees herself as being deeply spiritual, and she's using the language of astrology to create a deeper understanding for herself and the people that she's connecting to. I don't want to give away more than that if you haven't seen it, or maybe, I don't know. Do I say more? I mean, I'm just going to leave it there for now. So, because there's so much to say, and I don't want to get too far off on a tangent. I want to kind of keep this, in a coherent, structured direction, which is often challenging for me when I go on these tangents. But, thinking about Mike White, first of all, so he's a Cancer sun, a 9th house Cancer sun. He's a 7th house Taurus moon, and he's a Libra rising. So in each of these episodes, each of these seasons, all 3 seasons of the White Lotus, each season, in each season is an ensemble cast, and within that ensemble for each season, there's a very strong family dynamic. I wasn't a huge fan of season 1. I feel like I need to go back and watch it and see if I hate it as much now as I did when I first watched it. But I remember there was one family. There was a family in season 1. I think it was like a wife and a husband, and the wife was like very successful in her career. The husband is dealing with some potential health issues that I think he's keeping secret from the rest of the family, and they have a couple kids, and so that are adults, or like young adults. And so that's the dynamic in season 1. Season 2, I remember more clearly. Obviously, it's more recent, and I enjoyed it much more than season 1. But season 2 was the family dynamic was 3 men. a grandfather, a father, and a son. And the son is, a young adult. And so you're dealing with the family dynamic between these three, the father, the son, and the grandfather. Season 3, you've got another family of a mother, a father, and 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. The daughter's the middle child, and the 2 sons, that one's older, one's younger. The oldest son is played by Patrick Schwarzenegger. But it's interesting because, Mike White is a Cancer sun. And if you're a Cancer sun, you're somebody who identifies with your family. And Mike White comes from a very unique family dynamic. He grew up, just in looking at his Wikipedia page, and what that says there, it talks about how he, I think he grew up in a very religious family household. His father used to write speeches or maybe even sermons for these evangelical individuals like Jerry Falwell. If you don't know who Jerry Falwell was, he's a bit, one of these big evangelical preachers who would be on TV, very animated. His mother was the fundraising executive and former executive director of the Pasadena Playhouse, which is a very popular theater in the Los Angeles area. But his father, who, yes, he was a speechwriter and ghostwriter for religious right figures such as Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson. His father came out as gay in 1994 and became an activist. Due to his father's religious background, White grew up in a modest household in a conservative Christian community. But his father, ended up coming out of the closet, and I think he became like a preacher for he devoted himself full time to minister to lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgender people, also writing extensively on the subject of gay Christians. So very interesting, unique background. And interesting also that Mike White was born with the sun in the 9th house, because the 9th house represents religion. And so he identifies with family, and he identifies with religion or spirituality. And I've read that, Mike White views himself as a very spiritual individual. I think he even said, like in the post interview, that they have these little, like, sort of behind the scenes snippets after each episode, and he was the one who was featured after the season finale, and he said that I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something like this 3rd season was a cross between spirituality and debauchery. It's like the 2 extremes. That 9th house sun also indicates why he's really thriving in this dynamic of teaching, or of writing this story about people who are traveling. Because the 9th house is not just the philosopher or religion, it's also about traveling. It's about exploration. And so season 1 took place in Hawaii. Season 2 was in Italy, and season 3 was in Thailand. So he's choosing these sort of destination getaways where people are traveling. So he identifies with travel as well as religion and the family, and all of those elements are in the show that he writes. He is a 7th house Taurus moon. And so the Taurus moon, that to me reflects that this, his stories take place at this fictional resort that's all over the world called the White Lotus. And the people that are staying at this resort are, they're wealthy people. And so Taurus is the sign that represents money. So that it gives him some emotional satisfaction to be in these opulent, beautiful, material, sort of abundant places. And then he's a Libra rising, which also loves that beauty. And then the 7th house moon, relationships. And at the core of all of these, of each season, has to do with relationships, whether it's familial relationships, relations between lovers, or relationships between friends. There's a really interesting relationship dynamic between 3 adult women who grew up together since they were children, and they are now vacationing together in Thailand at the White Lotus. And so the dynamic between these 3 women, you see a lot come up between the 3 of them that was maybe suppressed. But of course, when you go on a trip, when you go on vacation and you're with somebody, for that extended period of time that's very intense, where you're eating almost every meal with them, you're spending most of the day with them, a lot comes up. And he really just does it in such a beautiful, thought-provoking way. Really just got me thinking about the different characters and their dynamics. He is a 9th house Mercury in Gemini, which forms a trine to his 1st house Jupiter in Libra. He's got some really big ideas. This is what, the 9th house Sun, the 9th house Mercury, and he's a 9th house Mars. I feel this 9th house energy. If you're a 9th house Sun, Mercury, Mars, or Sun in Sagittarius or Moon in Sagittarius, like Alexi, you'll hear her interview in a couple weeks. She's written a couple books. She's a Sagittarius Moon. That Sagittarius frequency, whether it's 9th house energy or Moon, Sun, or Ascendant, these are the people that can channel in the information from the higher power. They have that ability to really just kind of sit there and share and pontificate their thoughts in a way that's meaningful, that's deep, and is engaging to the listener. And Mike White has this ability. But that connection between Mercury in the 9th house and Jupiter, the planetary ruler of Sagittarius, in his 1st house, the house of personality, that brings about this frequency of expansiveness. And in every season, he goes to some places that it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that, that this is what he's writing into the script. This is outrageous. This is wild. It's like, oh my God. But he goes there. And that Mercury trine Jupiter is that big picture, that expansiveness, that like, yeah, we're going there. We're going to this place that you didn't think like we're going to go to this place, but we're going there. Also thinking about that sort of nonconformist frequency. He was born with Uranus squaring his sun. Uranus is the planet of nonconformity, of revolution, rebellion, innovation, independence, the unexpected. It's the planet that's thinking outside the box. And this planet at 4 degrees in Libra is squaring Mike White's sun at 6 degrees in Cancer. And he goes so far out the box, It's like, oh my God. And it's also interesting too, because he is identified as bisexual. And again, like you've heard me say on this show, if you've been listening, how people that have strong placements of Uranus aligning with the sun or the moon, or maybe it's the sun, the moon, or the rising sign in Aquarius, or Venus in Aquarius, their love nature might be queer or different or non-conforming, outside the box. And so that is certainly the case with Mike White, as he is identified as bisexual, and he was born with Uranus, the planet of nonconformity, squaring his sun, the planet that represents identity. To write this show takes not only an incredible amount of talent, but it takes an incredible amount of work to write every episode, to direct every episode, to put it all together. Takes an incredible amount of work, and I don't think that Mike White would be able to do this without this aspect that I'm looking at right here, where I mentioned his Mars is in Cancer in the 9th house. It's also conjunct his midheaven. So he has this drive to achieve his goals and ambitions. But then Saturn, the planetary ruler of the 10th house, the planet of responsibility, the planet of hard work, achievement, authority, responsibility, is aligning with his Mars and his midheaven. So not only does he have the drive to achieve the goals and ambitions that he sets out for himself, but he also, just has that will to do so. He's willing to put in the work. It's not just an empty drive. It's like, okay, I have the drive, but these are the steps that I need to take. It's like you need more than an engine to run the car. You need the wheels, you need the vehicle, and you need your foot to press on the gas and say, go. His Saturn is in the 8th house, which is the house of death in Taurus. So he has work to do in terms of intimacy, intimate relationships, and his relationship to his self-worth, his values. And he's doing that through writing these episodes and directing these episodes. He's saying, I'm willing to go through the transformation of what it takes to learn about each character, to really connect with each character in a deep and meaningful, intimate, vulnerable way, and to explore the transformation that occurs with each character throughout the arc of the season. And that's ultimately one of the most brilliant parts of the White Lotus is you see how every character is changed from the beginning of the week to the end of the week. And that is what really hits me about this show. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on a plane and gone to like Europe or South America. And when I get back on that plane to come back to the United States, I'm a different person. I've been sitting, in the middle seat of 5 people weeping. Weeping as I'm flying back from Europe to the United States. Weeping in the middle of 5 people because of the experience that I had had. And you see that happen to every character on this show. And that's what makes the show so brilliant and worthwhile watching. There's many times where it's like, oh my God, this is dragging, and it's almost painful how it's dragging. But I see that he's just slowly turning up the heat, and it's building that tension, and you're kind of stuck with them. You're like, I gotta see what's gonna happen. I can't not know what's gonna happen. And as you get to the end, you see the payoff. And you're like, wow, these characters have really changed from episode 1 to episode 8, from day 1 to the last day of the week. It's so beautiful. It's amazing. I really got to congratulate and celebrate Mike White. And then think about also his North Node is in Pisces in the 5th house. So he's living in his soul's purpose because the 5th house is the star. It's Leo. It's the 5th sign. It rules the heart, and it's in Pisces, which is that fantasy. So the 5th house is creativity, and Pisces is fantasy, and that's what he's doing. He is creating a fantasy. He's creating a fantasy, and he's drawing the viewer into his unconscious, into his inner world. We're being sucked in, and we're experiencing what goes on in the depths of his mind. And it's for me, it's helping me learn about myself and learning about astrology deeper. And I think that's why I watch, is not only because it's amazingly entertaining, but it's also I feel like I also learned something about spirituality, about myself. That you put these characters in these difficult situations and you're asking yourself, how would I react? How would I react in this situation? You think you would react one way, but maybe you would react a different way. And the way that a lot of these characters are reacting, are not ways that you would probably want to react. And that's what really makes the viewer uncomfortable. Myself, speaking for myself here. So that's what's interesting. And he's following his North Node. He's diving into that dream world, that fantasy world, and he's creating something from his heart. So kudos to Mike White. Definitely celebrating him this week. And then looking at the connection between him and Patrick Schwarzenegger. Patrick Schwarzenegger and Mike White, they have a karmic connection because Patrick Schwarzenegger was born with the sun at 25 degrees in Virgo. That is conjunct Mike White's Pluto at 24 degrees in Virgo. So they're drawn together like magnets. They connect to each other in a very deep, powerful, and meaningful way. Maybe they have some sort of past life connection or karma that they're working out in this life. Patrick Schwarzenegger's sun is also aligning with Mike White's Neptune. So Mike White's Neptune is at 28 degrees in Scorpio, the sign that rules sex. And Patrick Schwarzenegger's sun is in Virgo. That's Earth. So it's like Mike White, Patrick Schwarzenegger is bringing Mike White's dreams or fantasies into reality. They were both born with Venus in Leo. So they have very similar, they have a very similar connection to their senses, their likes and dislikes. They have a very bold, confident way of loving or expressing what they love, what they like, or what they don't like. Mike White was born with the ascendant at 17 degrees in Libra. Patrick Schwarzenegger was born with Jupiter at 18 degrees in Libra. So Mike White was born with Jupiter in the first house at 26 degrees in Libra. That's conjunct Patrick Schwarzenegger's Mars at 24 degrees in Libra and his moon at 29 degrees in Libra. And then his Jupiter is conjunct Mike White's ascendant. Patrick Schwarzenegger was born just prior to Mike White's second Jupiter return. But that conjunction between Jupiter and the ascendant, along with Mars and the moon in the first house, I mean, it's almost like Mike White is like, look, this guy right here, he's meant to play this role. This is a part of me that I've created that I can't play. But I could never play this role, but this person can. He can bring this part of me to life, to reality. So it's really powerful and amazing to see this. His Patrick Schwarzenegger's Uranus and Neptune are directly opposite Mike White's Mars. They are opposite his midheaven. They are squaring his ascendant, his descendant, and they are forming a trine with his Saturn at 18 degrees in Taurus. Not to give away too much, but there's a very sort of taboo erotic scene that occurs with Patrick Schwarzenegger. And it's almost like this aspect of Uranus and Neptune opposing Mars, the planet that rules the physical act of sex, forming a trine with Saturn, the planet of reality, in the 8th house, which is the house that represents sex and intimacy. Squaring the ascendant, descendant. It's taboo. It's outside the box. It's different. That's this aspect. You've got Uranus, which is the outside the box energy, and Neptune, which is the fantasy, the dream. Powerful. Amazing. I hope you are connecting to this as I'm explaining it to you. I'm doing the best that I can to articulate this, and hopefully this is maybe giving you some insight into yourself and how you might connect to others as well. Patrick Schwarzenegger's North Node is squaring Mike White's North Node. Patrick Schwarzenegger's North Node is in Sagittarius, which is the truth teller. So it's like, again, he's taking Mike White's dream and fantasy and he's speaking it into reality. His North Node in Sagittarius, Patrick Schwarzenegger, is forming a sextile to Mike White's Uranus at 4 degrees in Libra, the planet that represents nonconformity or homosexuality. There's honesty and truth that is coming through this as well. There's Patrick Schwarzenegger's Mercury, which is at 11 degrees in Libra, is opposing Mike White's Chiron at 10 degrees in Aries. So through the conversations that they're having, or maybe through the expression of Patrick Schwarzenegger through this character, it's healing a part of Mike White and his self-confidence. Patrick Schwarzenegger's Sun and Mercury are both transiting through Mike White's 12th house. This is the house of soulmates or unknown enemies. It's almost like Patrick Schwarzenegger can see the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame that may exist within Mike White, and he's able to tell him, no, it's good. It's okay. Like, I'm with you. I see where you're going with this. And it's, yeah, it makes him feel accepting of himself. So, on the flip side, Mike White's Sun and Mercury are in Patrick Schwarzenegger's 10th house. And so he's bringing light, life, and vitality to Patrick Schwarzenegger's career. And isn't that the truth? Because, Patrick Schwarzenegger, who doesn't know the last name Schwarzenegger? Yeah, you're Arnold's son. You're Marie Shriver's son. Okay, great. But did people really know who he was? Maybe a few people. He's been in some films, but this is definitely the role that has broken him out, where people are like, wow, okay, this guy he's legit. He's a great actor. Because I know there's a lot of talk about Nepo babies and that sort of stuff. And sure, yes, he's had different opportunities that other people don't get necessarily, but has he taken advantage of this opportunity? Does he deserve this opportunity? Did he hit this opportunity out of the park? Absolutely. He crushed it. And then Mike White's Jupiter at 26 degrees in Libra forms that conjunction, as I said, to Patrick Schwarzenegger's Mars and Moon, but also forms a sextile with his Venus, and Mercury is aligning with all these points as well. So there's a real simpatico. They're also aligning with Patrick Schwarzenegger's Saturn. So Mike White's Mercury, communication, Jupiter, philosophy, expansion, aligning with Patrick Schwarzenegger's love nature, his senses, his action-oriented nature, his emotional nature, and his sense of responsibility. And that Mercury's in the 10th house. This is why this connection has been such a lightning rod, in a sense, where it's like people are like, wow, Patrick Schwarzenegger, amazing. Like, I can't wait to see what this guy's going to do next, because he was incredible in this role. And that is in part to the connection that he has with Mike White astrologically. Now, when you look at Patrick Schwarzenegger's astrological code, and I just want to focus on two areas. Well, it's three areas, because these three areas are reflected in two signs. The two signs are Virgo and Libra. He was born with the sun and the ascendant in Virgo and the moon in Libra. Now, Arnold, his dad, does not have Virgo or Libra in the triad. Arnold is a Leo sun, a Cancer rising, and a Capricorn moon. But the reflection that Patrick has with his father Arnold is they are both first house sons. Arnold was born with the sun in the first house. Patrick was born with the sun in the first house. This is what gives them both that extreme confidence, where they identify very clearly with themselves and who they are. And so they are able to step forward into the world, very authentic, very courageous in their self-expression. But when you look at Libra and Virgo and you think about the astrological traits that have been passed down through the generations, let's go back to Rose Kennedy. the matriarch of the Kennedy family, the mother of John F. Kennedy and Eunice Kennedy Shriver, who Eunice Kennedy Shriver is the mother of Maria Shriver, who is the mother of Patrick Schwarzenegger. So Patrick Schwarzenegger's great grandmother is Rose Kennedy. Rose Kennedy and Patrick Schwarzenegger were both born with the moon in Libra. Eunice Shriver and her son Anthony Shriver, Maria's brother, and Patrick were all born with Virgo rising on the horizon. So Patrick shares his moon placement with his great-grandmother. He shares his Virgo rising with his grandmother and his uncle. His great-uncle, John F. Kennedy, the president, was born with Libra rising and a Virgo moon. Patrick is a Virgo sun and a Libra moon. And just looking at him in this show, of course I can see Maria Shriver, I can see Arnold Schwarzenegger in him, but I also felt like I was seeing John F. Kennedy, because this guy, he just comes across with just like this all-American preppiness, which is, I kind of think of John F. Kennedy as that way, like, standing on a boat with like, a certain type of shirt on or something. You've seen these pictures of JFK, and you can see that in Patrick Schwarzenegger. And it's interesting that John F. Kennedy's rising sign is reflecting Patrick Schwarzenegger's moon, and John F. Kennedy's moon is reflecting Patrick Schwarzenegger's sun and rising. So strong connection between those placements there. Then there is his mother, Maria. So Maria also was not born with, she's not reflecting the Libra or the Virgo placements in her primal triad. Maria is a Taurus rising, a Scorpio sun, and a Leo moon. But what she is reflecting in her sun is they were both born with Mercury and Mars in Libra. So Patrick and his mother Maria were both born with Mercury, which is communication, and Mars, which is action, in Libra. His uncle Anthony, who he shares his rising sign with, who's Maria's brother, was also born with Mars in Libra. So Maria, her brother Anthony, and her son Patrick were all born with Mars in Libra. When you look at, so Patrick Schwarzenegger has one half sibling and three full siblings. His full siblings, one of his sisters, his is like very private, and so none of her information is online. I did find her birth date, but she was born right on the cusp of Cancer or Leo, so not sure which one she is. And the moon, I think, is in Sagittarius. Don't know what her rising sign is. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Virgo, but who knows? But he has a brother, Christopher, and another sister named Catherine. Christopher is a Libra sun, which is reflecting Patrick's Libra moon. And Catherine is a Virgo rising, like her brother, who's also a Virgo rising and a Virgo sun. The half-brother, Joseph, who is Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, he is a triple Libra, a Libra sun, Libra moon, and a Libra rising. So his half-brother, Joseph, is reflecting his Libra moon. So, just really fascinating to see how they're all reflecting, this Libra Virgo energy. And when you think about those two frequencies, Maria Shriver's father, who, again, we don't know his primal triad either. So he's a Scorpio. She's reflecting his Scorpio sun, but he is the founder of the Peace Corps. Her mother, Eunice, is the founder of the Special Olympics. So, when you think of JFK, in that famous phrase that he has in one of his speeches is, ask not what your country can do for you, but rather ask what you can do for your country. This is a family that really is service oriented. Of course, they have a lot. They're very wealthy, but they're very conscious about giving back. That's one of the staples or family traits, is that, because we have a lot, we have to give a lot. And that is the frequency of that Virgo placement, whether we've so many of these family members, either Virgo rising, Virgo sun, or Virgo moon. The Libra part is the beauty, and they're all very beautiful, very attractive people, and that's what Libra brings. It brings that beauty, that style, that really strong sense of taste, of likes and dislikes, and charm. Very charming. And so, when I think of the Kennedys, or, the Shrivers, the Schwarzeneggers, it's service, and it's beauty, it's charm, it's fairness, it's balance. And it's really amazing to see that reflecting in the collective of their astrological codes. So I hope that was helpful to you in your little astrology lesson this week. Let's get into the week and talk about where the planets are and what's going to be happening. So we're going to begin with the first transit, which is Mercury's transit into Aries. And again, the theme is authentic, courageously joyous values. We're going to feel good about ourselves now. I feel like we've been through a lot this first quarter of the year. And I feel like the quarter sort of ended with the full moon in Libra. That was like the final assignment of the quarter, and now we've entered into the new quarter. And I'm not here to try to blow smoke and tell you that this next quarter is going to be easier than the last quarter. It's going to present a whole different realm of challenges. That's why I really appreciate you listening along and being here with me on this podcast. And I really hope that what we're sharing on this podcast is giving you the insight that you need to navigate your way through these lessons and challenges that we're experiencing day in, day out, week to week, month to month. We've been through a lot the first quarter, and now we move into the second quarter and a whole new set of assignments. The last quarter was about compassion and empathy and really getting in deep with ourselves and who are we, how can I be more forgiving or compassionate to myself? How can I really love myself more? How can I forgive myself for the past? And hopefully through doing some of that work, we're going to be able to step forward into this next quarter with a greater sense of confidence and courage, where we have the confidence to be authentic, where we have the courage to be joyful, and where we have the courage to be joyfully expressive of our values. Like when you think of the Kennedys or the Shrivers or the Schwarzeneggers, like their values of fairness, of being of service. What are your values? What do you value in life? And do you have the courage to joyfully express what you value? Do you have the courage to joyfully express what you value? Or are you hiding your values from other people? Well, I don't want to tell people I value this because then they're not going to like me. No. That's the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame that we were working through quarter one. Quarter two, we're putting it out there. Either people are going to like us or they're not. And the ones that don't, they're going to clear the space for the ones that do. And we're going to get those right reflections vibing off of us. So the first transit of the week is Mercury in Aries. Mercury transits through Aries from April 15th to May 10th. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, guide of souls to the underworld, the planet of consciousness, communication, coordination, the god of merchants and thieves. Aries is the cardinal fire sign, symbolized by the ram. Mercury transited those first 9 degrees of Aries from March 3rd to the 29th. It transited it transited to 9 and moved back into Pisces. Now it's moving back into Aries, where it's going to transit through the entire sign. So the last time Mercury transited through the entire sign of Aries was March 9th to the 15th of last year. The time before that was March 18th to April 3rd of 23. The time before that was March 27th to April 10th of 22. And the time before that was April 3rd to the 19th of 21. So think back to those dates for clues on what could be in store for you this time around as Mercury transits through Aries. But this is bringing maybe a sharpness to the way that we're communicating with others. Maybe we're being more aggressive. We're putting ourselves out there more aggressively. Really be mindful of the conflicts that are occurring, the verbal conflicts that are occurring between April 15th to May 10th. Those verbal conflicts are giving you conscious awareness to where your fears are, your insecurities. It's helping you become consciously aware of your fears and insecurities. These conflicts, these arguments, these verbal spats. You're in the fight for your mind. You're in the fight for your mind. And sometimes in fighting for your mind, you may put yourself out there in a way that is aggressive and challenging to those that are listening to you. And if you're doing that, they may challenge you back. And it's through the challenges that they present back to you that there's that friction that occurs that's going to help bring to light the insecurities or fears, but will hopefully get us to what is most authentic within ourselves and within our relationships. Are you being authentic? Are you being authentic with the people around you, the people that you're in relationship with? Where have you been holding back? Where have you been holding back? Are you being authentic in your own thoughts? Are you keeping it real with yourself? There's no hiding with Aries. If you're hiding, the fight will find you. It will hunt you down. There's no avoiding conflict during Mercury's transit through Aries. There's no avoiding it. The more you try, the worse it will be. Recognize that at the end of conflict is love. Just as at the end of night is day. If you hide from the conflict, you are preventing the love. You are preventing the day. And you are perpetuating your inner suffering. So what are you hiding from that needs to come out? I know it's coming up in you right now. I know a thought just popped into your head and you're like, no, not that, Scott. No, I don't want to. No. I wasn't thinking that. No. Yes, you were. Yeah, that came up. And it came up because it needs to be dealt with. I didn't put it there. I just watered the seed and it sprouted up. Now it's up to you to deal with it. Can't hide from it. Got to bring it up. And when you bring it up with the intention of love, that at the end of this conflict will come love, will come peace. There's no outer peace if there's no inner peace. And Mercury in Aries is fighting for inner peace. And that inner peace comes through authenticity in communication, in how you're communicating with others. Now, the second transit of the week is a conjunction between Mercury and Neptune. Neptune transited into Aries. It was a few weeks ago. That was back a couple weeks ago. That was on May 30th. So it's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks that Neptune has been transiting through Aries, and Mercury joins it from April 15th to the 18th, with the exact conjunction occurring on Wednesday, April 16th. So the planet of the conscious mind is forming a conjunction with the planet of the unconscious mind. The planet of the conscious mind forming a conjunction with the planet of the unconscious mind. Now, this occurred 2 times prior, recently, but Mercury and Neptune were both in Pisces. That was March 2nd, when Mercury was conjunct Neptune in Pisces, and then March 29th, the day before Neptune transited into Aries, Mercury retrograde transited out of Aries and formed the conjunction with Neptune in Pisces before Neptune transited into Aries. Now they've reunited in Aries on April 16th. So what was going on March 2nd and March 29th that is akin to what's happening this week? What's the connection there for you? This is about keeping it 100 with yourself in terms of your fantasy, your dreams. What does that mean? What are you hiding from? This is bringing clarity to what you are hiding from. You might be finding that you're more idealistic than normal, and that's going to give you the sort of impetus that you need to speak up or speak out, is because you have a very strong belief in what you are saying, in the thoughts that you're having. This is what happens with Neptune and Aries. And so maybe we've been percolating for the last couple of weeks like a philosophy or an ideological sort of perspective on the world. And it's been percolating. And then this week, it somehow there is coherent words that you're able to put with your thoughts to communicate them to others, to speak your dreams into authentic expression. You know, the last time that Neptune formed a conjunction with Aries, with Mercury in Aries, the last time Mercury in Aries formed a conjunction with Neptune in Aries was at 28 degrees in Aries on May 7th, 1874. May 7th, 1874. So all you historians out there can give me some insight on what was going on in the world then. I did a little research. That was, when you think about the last time Neptune transited through Aries, it was like 1861 to 1874. The beginning of it was the beginning of the Civil War. And it's really kind of eerie that the last time Mercury formed a conjunction with Neptune in Aries at 0 degrees was April 16th, 1861. Here it is again on April 16th, 2025, forming that exact same conjunction at 0 degrees in Aries. So that was how many years ago? So let me just do the math real quick. So what is 2025 minus 1861? Everybody's got it right now, and they're waiting for me to say what they already know. 164 years. So exactly 164 years to the day, Mercury is forming a conjunction with Neptune in Aries at 0 degrees. Why is this significant? Well, April 16th, 1861 was 4 days after the American Civil War began. The American Civil War began on April 16th, 1861. No, April 12th, 1861. So the American Civil War began on April 12th, 1861. Mercury formed that conjunction with Neptune on April 16th, 1861, 164 years to the day from when Mercury is forming that conjunction with Neptune again in Aries at 0 degrees. Whew. Is there tension out there in the world? And so when you think of May 7th, 1874, which was the last time Mercury formed a conjunction with Neptune in Aries, which was at 28 degrees, by 1874, the world was in a very different place from where it was in 1861. This was a culmination of a cycle. You know, it was like the United States had been through this crazy war. The war it changed people. This was brother versus brother, father versus son, mother versus son, mother versus daughter, sister versus sister. This was an ideological war. States' rights, slavery. It wasn't about money and land as much as it was about ideology. And that's what we're entering into now, is this ideological warfare where I'm right and you're wrong. And I'm willing to kill you for it. That's where we are. Or that's where we're headed. How do we prevent that from happening? I don't know if it is preventable. I don't know if it is avoidable. But I think the important way to look at it is to focus in on yourself, because Aries is the sign that represents the self. It's the sign that represents the self. And so this is about becoming conscious of your unconscious and who that is in terms of you. What is your ideology? What are your beliefs? And are you so afraid that somebody's going to take your beliefs from you that you need to kill them in order to protect yourself? This is why we want to bring out the conflict. We need to talk. We need to be authentic and open in our self-expression. We have to be willing to engage in verbal confrontation in order to prevent physical confrontation over ideas. And hopefully through that we come back to love. The third transit of the week, Mars, the god of war, the planetary ruler of Aries, returns to Leo, the fixed fire sign symbolized by the lion and ruled by the sun. Mars transited through Leo through the first 6 degrees from November 3rd to January 6th. Now it's back to transit through the entire sign from April 17th to June 17th. Just one more note about Mercury and Aries, and we are going to get back to Mercury and Aries in a bit, but I just wanted to make everyone aware, in case you aren't aware, but if you have key planets or points in Cancer or Capricorn, be mindful about where Mercury is transiting in relation to those key planets and points, because when it's hitting a planet or point in Cancer or Capricorn, that's going to create tension or stress, which may bring about the conflicts that I'm discussing here. That may be those moments where you can't hold it in anymore and you spit it out aggressively. If so, so be it. But if you want to soften the aggression, it's about doing the work of being consciously aware of what's going on within you and not suppressing your thoughts or ideas. Now, when Mars transits through Leo, it's going to create tension and stress for key astrological points or planets in Taurus and Scorpio. The reason why Cancer and Capricorn create stress with Aries is because all three are cardinal. Cancer is water, Capricorn is earth, Aries is fire. Fire boils water, fire scorches earth. That's the tension. Earth and water extinguish fire. Leo is fixed fire. Taurus is fixed earth. Scorpio is fixed water. So again, they're all fixed, and those earth and water energies extinguish the fire, while the fire scorches the earth and boils the water. So from April 17th to June 17th, be mindful of your Taurus and Scorpio placements, because those Taurus and Scorpio placements are going to get kicked in someplace where it hurts. It's going to feel uncomfortable. You can't run from it. You can't hide from it. Run towards it. Running towards it is going to create the friction that needs to be created in order to open your heart. Mars in Leo is about having the courage to open your heart. It's about recognizing that an open heart is the strongest version of your heart. It takes strength to open your heart. It's pushing those scorpions to get out of the cave. It's pushing those bulls to get up and move, to express themselves. And even if you're not born with the sun in Scorpio or Taurus, you may be born with another planet there. If your Mars is in Scorpio or Taurus, it's going to get hit by this Mars. I mean, if you're born between 1984 and 1995, you were born with Pluto in Scorpio. You better believe when Mars comes around and hits that Pluto, it's going to kick you in your ass. It's going to knock you onto the ground. Hopefully it's not that dramatic, but it could be. There's some deep transformation that's occurring for you during this period. The last time Mars transited through Leo, all the way through the sign, the entire sign, not just the first 6 degrees as it did from November 3rd to January 6th, was May 20th to July 10th, 2023. The time before that was June 11th to July 29th, 2021 and the time before that was August 17th to October 3rd, 2019. What was going on in your life during these dates? That will give you some clues on what could be in store for you this time around. But the question of this transit is, do you have the courage to open your heart? Do you have the courage to be bold? Do you have the courage to create? Do you have the courage to shine? Do you have the courage to attract attention to yourself? Do you have the courage to stand up with your shoulders back and your heart forward? Do you have the courage to love? Do you have the courage to open your heart and receive love? On the other side of the coin, there might be a lot of tyrannical behavior that's occurring during this period, where people are suddenly becoming the tyrant, the tyrannical king or queen. Somebody who's pushing people around, who's taking away their power to consume it. There may be challenges where it's like, well, this person is trying to take from me, so now I need to fight back. Now that conflict's coming up with Aries. I mean, there's a lot of fire here. Mars in Leo, Mercury in Aries. Intense. And just to add to the tension, we're going to bring the sun, the planetary ruler of Leo, into the mix as it transits through Taurus. So the first 30 days of Mars's transit through Leo, aside from the first 2 days, starting on April 19th, so minus the first 2 days, the next 30 days after the first 2 days, the sun is going to be transiting through Taurus, while Mars is transiting through Leo. And that's going to create tension. And it's happening this week. I mean, it's popping off this week. The sun transits through Taurus every year from April 19th to May 20th. Or April 19th, 21st to May 20th, 22nd, or 21st, 20th to 21st, right around those dates. It depends on the year and the time zone that you're living in. But this year, on the Pacific time zone, the sun's transiting through Taurus from April 19th to May 20th. The fixed earth sign symbolized by the bull, Taurus. Taurus is about grounding into reality. Grounding into reality. The reality of your values. Your material reality. Do you have everything that you need? Do you have everything that you want? Do you feel valued by those that you are connected to in your life? There may be an urge to kind of collect yourself during this period and hold others at bay. Don't get too close to me. Don't touch me. Don't talk to me. Keep your distance. It's about enlivening yourself in your sensual nature. Indulgence, maybe, perhaps. An extra piece of cake. An extra massage. Whatever you enjoy, whatever enlivens your senses. What does enliven your senses? What do you enjoy? What makes you feel loved? Do you feel loved in your material surroundings? Do you feel provided for? Do you feel protected? Do you feel secure? it's a challenging dynamic with all this fire, and then we've got this earth. I think of it as kind of like, it's kind of like having a truck that's stuck in the mud, where it's like you're stepping on the gas and the wheels are spinning, the engine is revving, but the truck is going nowhere. That might feel like what this is like. That you're pushing, and things aren't moving as fast as you want them to. Let's not forget that Venus is still in Pisces, the North Node is in Pisces, Saturn is in Pisces. This is going to really test your need to be in control and your ability to let go and have faith that everything is working out exactly as it should. Because the more you may try to do, the more challenges you may create for yourself. Allow the world to come to you. It's not about chasing your dream. It's about allowing your dream to appear in your reality. By chasing your dream, you've actually been running from it. It's been trying to catch up with you. So the fifth transit of the week, Mars forms an aspect with Neptune and Aries, a trine, a supportive aspect, a fire aspect, fixed fire with Mars and Leo, cardinal fire with Neptune and Aries. This trine occurs from Thursday to Tuesday, April 17th to the 22nd, with the exact trine occurring on Saturday, April 19th, the same day that the sun transits into Taurus. Now, I did some deep diving into this transit. I went way back, because the last time that Mars in Leo formed a trine with Neptune and Aries at 0 degrees was June 6th, 596 BC. June 6th, 596 BC. This was the Babylonian exile and the fall of Jerusalem, the first temple period. In 597 BC, just months before this Mars-Neptune trine, Jerusalem fell to King Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon. Thousands of Israelites, including the prophet Ezekiel, were exiled to Babylon. This marked the beginning of the Babylonian captivity, one of the most defining events in Jewish history. The religious and cultural trauma catalyzed prophetic visions, mysticism, and a deep rethinking of spiritual identity and collective destiny. Prophets like Ezekiel, whose visions began during the exile, embodies this Neptunian idealism that we're talking about with Neptune transiting through Aries, and mysticism channeled through the dramatic force of Mars in Leo. The Jewish faith was undergoing a radical internal transformation from temple-centered ritual to a portable text and prayer-based religion. Nebuchadnezzar was in full force during this time, extending Babylonian power throughout the Near East. His rule was not only militaristic, but theocratic and vision-driven, heavily involving dream interpretation, astrology, and religious architecture. Now, of course, Neptune has made many aspects with Mars as it's transited through Aries and Mars transited through Leo, but this was the last time that Mars in Leo formed a trine with Neptune in Aries at 0 degrees, exactly as it is on April 19th. Now, back on September 3rd, 1697, Mars in Leo formed a trine with Neptune retrograde in Aries at 0 degrees. There is also several times where Mars in Leo formed a trine with Neptune in Aries at early degrees, but the degrees that were popping up were 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 0 only showed up twice, going back to 596 BC, and one of those times Neptune was retrograde. But we were talking about earlier how Mercury's conjunction with Neptune in Aries on April 16th, 1861, 4 days after the beginning of the Civil War, Mars in Leo formed a trine with Neptune retrograde in Aries at 1 degree on July 7th, 1861, so just a couple months into the war. Mars in Leo, energizing the heart. Neptune in Aries, creating an idealism of self. I mean, are we going to be seeing some religious wars happening, or wars that have to do with idealistic perspectives? I mean, I don't know. But I'm not going to be surprised if we do. There's a lot of rhetoric that's going around, and people are feeling, maybe more emboldened to impress their viewpoints on others that could emanate into fighting words, where it's no longer about words and it's now about violence to communicate what their points of views are. Just to add even more spice to these aspects is the Sun squaring Leo, the Sun in Taurus squaring Mars in Leo at 1 degree from Saturday to Tuesday, April 19th to the 22nd, with the exact square happening on Sunday, April 20th. So it feels like we're building towards this extreme conflict on Sunday, April 20th, where maybe reality gets in the way of the heart. The heart is writing checks that don't exist within reality. This is the king telling the king's accountant that I'm spending this money even if we don't have it. Go collect more of the money from the farmers, from the people, from the peasants. I want more. Really be mindful of the tension that's occurring at the end of this week, because it's not just the Sun in Taurus squaring Mars in Leo on Sunday. It's also the Sun in Taurus squaring the Moon in Aquarius. That happens at 6:35 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time on Sunday. So literally Sunday evening, there's this aspect with the moon opposing Mars, the moon in Aquarius opposing Mars in Leo as they both square the sun in Taurus. And as if that isn't enough, there is also Mercury in Aries forming a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. That aspect occurs from Friday to Monday, April 18th to the 21st, with the exact sextile occurring on April 20th. And then Venus retrograde in Pisces. Not retrograde. Venus in Pisces, the retrograde ended last week. Venus in Pisces forms a sextile with Uranus in Taurus at 25 degrees. This is something that has been occurring. We talked about this transit a couple weeks ago. It's basically been sitting here in the sextile since April 1st and continues until April 26th. It formed an exact sextile when Venus was retrograde on April 7th. It forms a sextile again when Venus is direct in Pisces on April 20th, Sunday. So we've got these two aspects, Mercury and Pluto, and Venus and Uranus, which are supportive. That is the third of three transits that have, like these transits have occurred 3 times over the last several months. And now they're occurring for the third and final time. So again, this is, maybe I was wrong to say that like the final exam was the full moon in Libra. The final exam is, maybe these aspects that are happening for the third time. Or maybe it's the first exam of the next quarter. But the sun squaring Mars, the sun squaring the moon opposite Mars, Mercury sextile Pluto, and Venus sextile Uranus, all happening on Sunday. If you're curious how any of these transits are affecting you, Mercury in Aries, Mars in Leo, the sun in Taurus, if you want to learn how to navigate this frequency or these frequencies to the best of your ability, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. But what does this mean for Sunday? There's tension between who we are as individuals, what we value, the expression of our heart, and what is being reflected in society, in the community. Maybe you're speaking up, you're speaking out in a way that is more authentic than how you've been in the past. And it's moving the needle. It's creating changes within the community. Mercury in Aries sextile Pluto and Aquarius. This aspect first occurred on March 5th. It happened again on March 25th when Mercury was retrograde, and it's happening again on April 20th. So what was going on March 5th, March 25th, it's akin to what's happening this week. The Venus in Pisces sextile Uranus transit, that first occurred on January 26th. When Uranus was retrograde and Venus was direct. Then it happened on April 7th when Venus was retrograde and Uranus was direct, and now they're both direct. The Venus and Uranus aspect is shaking up your relationships. This is sort of taking that final look at what is the status of my relationships? Am I giving more than I should? Am I bending over backwards? Or do I need to be more empathetic? Or should I be more compassionate with myself? These aspects with the sun and Mars and the moon are really tugging on the heart. Check in with your heart this week. If you're unsure whether you're giving too much or not enough in your relationships, check in with your heart. And when I say check in with your heart, I'm saying, what's in your heart? Are you afraid? Or are you joyous? If you're joyous, you're good. If you're afraid, you might be giving too much. If you're afraid, you might be bending over backwards. And if so, you need to revolutionize your self-worth. You need to allow your heart to push your reality. That's Mars in Leo pushing the sun in Taurus, which is saying, I know you don't have the money, but I'm still worth it. So find a way to get it. That's just an example, a non-specific example that hopefully gives you some insight. You can relate that back to yourself. Where is it that you feel like you're lacking something in your life? Where do you feel like you're being cut short in your life? That you're being shortchanged? That you deserve more than what you're getting? Are you willing to be bold? To be radically yourself? To be authentic? Unapologetically? To get what you want? And understanding that in doing so, you might upset some people. And they might come back at you. But if you can do it with the intention of love and peace, then it doesn't need to go beyond a tense conversation. Allow others to share their perspective, but make sure you're being heard as well. That's how we're going to navigate this tension. Because things are heating up, things are moving, but there's still frustration because things aren't moving as quickly as you may want or desire things to move. Because there's still work that needs to be done. And the work is gaining that clarity of your perspective. You're finding your voice. You're connecting your mind to your heart. How often do you think, am I acting out of fear or am I acting out of love? Are the words that I'm expressing out of love or are they out of fear? Do I feel threatened by this individual or do I feel protected by them? Do I feel secure in this relationship or do I feel insecure in this relationship? Answering those questions is going to help you determine whether or not you are operating from a place of fear or love. And whichever way, whatever perspective you are coming from, it's okay. Because if you're in fear, you're going to move to love. And if you're in love, you're going to move to fear. It's going to go back and forth, back and forth. It's about being open with the fluidity of fear, love, fear, love. As we go back and forth, we grow, we grow, we grow. If we hold on to love too tightly, if we hold on to fear too tightly, then we're not allowing ourselves to grow. We're not allowing ourselves to evolve. So have the courage to face your fears and have the courage to receive love. It's both. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope this gives you the courage and the spirit to step forth into the week ahead with a clear mind and an open heart, that supports your soul in growing, evolving, and elevating as you continue down the path of life. Until next week. Thank you for listening to the Weekly Transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any other transits may be affecting you, or if you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.